This one is titled Pranked by My Stalker. I just finished listening to your podcast on the girlfriend that played a prank on her boyfriend by replacing a stack of red Solo cups filled with oatmeal at his door. It reminded me of something that happened to me in college. This is a story of another red Solo cup prank that, in my case, came from my stalker. For a little background, I was an RA for my floor my senior year in college, and part of my job was to do room inspection, bed check, and dress check, etc. There was one girl on my floor that was more than a little socially awkward. She had a type of Asperger's, although I'm not sure what type. We'll call her Alyssa for this retelling. Alyssa was a pretty quiet person and kept to herself. When I would see her, I would do my best to try and be kind, at the very least acknowledge her. I would say, "Hey Alyssa, good morning, have a good day." I would do my best to be friendly and welcoming, even though she was often rude in return. She had no friends to my knowledge, and she rarely talked. She would never respond to my greetings and would walk briskly past me, often turning her nose up in the air, sometimes even walking the other way. I still tried my best to be friendly. The other RAs became afraid of her because of her peculiar habits. For example, hiding under the stairs in the stairwell. There were no elevators in the particular building, so everyone used the stairs. Or hiding in weird places in the building, causing the RAs, including myself, to search for her to make sure she was safe. She would often try to skip chapel or required college activities and would lie quietly in bed until an RA had to ask her to leave. She was quite a larger girl, so several RAs were intimidated by her large, silent but grim presence. I would often have to talk to Alyssa about the cleanliness in her room or about her leaving the dorm to be at activities on time. I was always patient and kind with her. One night, she was out in the lobby late night studying, and I left her some chocolate and a note for happy studying, just as often as I left the other girls in my building. I don't know if this was the start of her obsession, but I can't think what else triggered it all to escalate. I started seeing Alyssa a lot more around campus, walking on the opposite side of the street at the same time as me, outside of my classrooms, even though I'm sure she didn't have any classes in that particular building, exiting a building right after me, following me to lunch, and then sitting a few tables away, sitting near me or where she could see me in the chapel or church. I didn't notice it at first, thought it was just a coincidence. After all, it's a small-ish campus and we lived in the same building. Then one night, while I was playing board games with my boyfriend in the common area, I felt someone's eyes on me and looked up to see her standing right over me, staring without saying a word. I was startled and snapped back into my seat. It felt as if she was been watching me for a while, but we had just been too busy playing to notice. I gave a startled hello, and she just stared at us awkwardly. I offered for her to play the game with us, but she just shook her head furiously, no, and rushed out of the building. When we finished our game, I went back to check my letterbox, which was in the same common area. When I looked over my shoulder, Alyssa had re-entered the building and was standing off in the distance. There were multiple entrances to the building, so she must have slipped back in through another door. She saw me looking at her and ducked behind a pillar in the building. My boyfriend headed towards the door, and I noticed she popped out from behind the pillar like she was going to follow us out of the building. I paused and pulled my boyfriend's sleeve, pulling him to the side like I needed to show him something. She stopped, then saw me looking at her, and darted back out the door. I waited and watched until I made sure she was gone for good before leaving the building. Something about that interaction made my skin crawl. That was the first time I actually realized she was following me around campus. There were a few other incidents that came to light before the main part of the story. The most important being that Alyssa had hid under the stairwell again, but this time she reached out and grabbed another RA's ankles as the RA walked down the stairs. Needless to say, the poor girl was scared so badly, and I learned that Alyssa had borderline harassed this other girl over Christmas break, texting her nonstop, messaging her on every possible social media platform at odd hours of the night, and then when the semester started back up, leaving notes on her door. These actions were reported to the dorm supervisor, who then had to sternly talk to Alyssa and tell her no longer to contact this other girl. I was made aware of the situation so that I could help the other girl feel safe and make sure there were no further interactions between them. Alyssa was directed to bring any concerns or needs to me. She began smiling at me, responding good morning back to me, and her demeanor towards me was overall much more friendly. I thought maybe my kindness had finally made a breakthrough and that perhaps she was just in need of a friend. She started waiting for me in the building lobby whenever I had a shift, and we would have an awkward conversation where we exchanged pleasantries. Nothing ever beyond that. Then our midterm white glove came. This happens twice a semester and consists of the RAs doing a thorough room inspection to make sure everything was clean and that there were no damages. This white glove just happened to fall on the night before April 1st, the eve before April Fool's Day. That night, all the girls were sent to the lobby to chill out while the RAs did their inspection. I saw Alyssa staring at me across a room full of girls, and I quickly looked away uneasily. I had to do re-inspections for the girls that failed the initial white glove check, and I was busy with other duties, so I wanted to avoid an awkward conversation with her that evening. My avoidance of her apparently did not go unnoticed. That night, I was up late and I didn't crash into bed until 2 a.m. I had to be up at 7 a.m. for breakfast and study engagement with a friend, so I slept very soundly that night. When I woke up the morning of April 1st and opened my door to go get breakfast, there was a giant stacked pyramid of at least 200 red Solo cups. It took a couple of blinks for me to realize I had been pranked. I closed my door and left, too tired to mentally deal with it all at the moment. I thought one of my close friends had perhaps done this as a prank. I marveled at their dedication because that was not an easy or quick task. I had gone to bed super late and it had not been there at 2 a.m., so they either waited until I finally went to bed or they got up at the crack of dawn this morning to set it up. I recorded myself reopening the door and knocking down the cup tower and sent it to a few friends, as well as posted it on my story. At closer glance, a neat little note that said April Fools was typed, printed, and taped to my door. As I was cleaning up the cups I had just knocked over, another girl across the hall peeked out at me and laughed. She said she had been up early as well, and she saw the tower in front of my door. I asked if she did it or knew who did it, and she confessed she did not. We laughed, and I joked that whoever pulled this must have been very dedicated on pranking me. I mentioned it in a loud, laughing voice that it must have been this one friend of mine, because no one else could be this petty to get up so early to take all this time to set up a cup tower to prank me. We laughed a bit more, and I finished cleaning up the cups before rushing to breakfast. I texted the friend I suspected to have pranked me, and she promised that she did not prank me. I didn't think much more of it until I got back to my room after lunch. I almost missed it. Another note typed out, printed, but then slid under my door. It read, "Dear OP, I am not petty." I laughed again, but then I felt uneasy. This felt like the prank was going a little too far now. I called my friend, and she again promised it wasn't her. Frustrated, I started asking everyone I could possibly think of that would have done this prank. It wasn't too hard to narrow people out, because I had only told a few friends about the prank and then specifically used the word petty. My boyfriend was literally not allowed in the girls' dorm, so it wasn't him. No one would fess up to having done it. Later that day, I got another note under my door. This time handwritten but still anonymous. "Dear OP, I am not petty. You are so mean for calling me petty, and you are a bully. I did something nice for you, and then you called me a mean name. Never talk to me again." I was so puzzled and unnerved by this note, because at this point it never crossed my mind that Alyssa had done this. She had always kept to herself, and I never considered us friends. I was so confused. The confusion only lasted for about an hour before another note appeared under my door. Quote, "OP, please do not talk to me unless it's dorm or room check rules related. Thank you." Signed, the petty cup person, Alyssa. Now I knew who did the prank, but I was so blindsided as to why she would pick me to do the prank, and also why was she upset at the word petty? I had never called her petty. I had simply told someone else that I thought one of my friends was petty in a joking manner. Apparently Alyssa had overheard that conversation somehow, and was now angry that I called my prankster petty. I called my boyfriend while I was in my room and told him I was creeped out, and I told him about the messages I had gotten slipped under my door. I know the college dorm walls are thin, but the next thing I know, I get another handwritten note slid under my door. Quote, "OP, I'm sorry I ever spoke to you about anything. I am not a creep. Also, you don't have to worry about me starting some kind of awkward conversation. Alyssa." At this point, I'm freaked out because she is listening to everything I say. That night, I showed my dorm supervisor all the notes and told her everything that had happened. She assured me Alyssa was harmless, but that she would talk to Alyssa the following day. Before my dorm supervisor could talk to her, though, I got another note under my door early the next morning. Quote, "OP, I am not petty, and it is fine for me to do it because I didn't know you would get mad. You can't be mean because of it. I'll never talk to you or other people again. I will go where there are no people." Keep in mind, I have never responded to any of these notes, nor have I even seen Alyssa since before this whole thing started. I immediately send a picture of the note to my dorm super in case Alyssa does something irrational. That whole day, I avoided my dorm and room because I didn't feel like being watched or listened to, and I didn't want to find any more notes under my door. That night, my dorm super called me into her office and asked if I wanted to be present for the meeting with Alyssa. I said I wouldn't mind since I would like to resolve the matter and move on as professionally as possible since I was still her RA and would have to deal with her for the rest of the semester. Alyssa walks into the office a short while later, takes one look at me sitting in the office, and then darts off running. After a shocked second, my dorm super jumped up and chased after her. I had to laugh at the comedy of absurdity of the whole situation. I ended up being requested to leave the office so Alyssa could have a private conversation with the dorm super, and Alyssa did not want me to be present for the meeting. I took absolutely no issue with that and happily left. After the meeting, the dorm super called me back in to talk, and she told me Alyssa needed some space to calm down, but that she would be fine now. She said that Alyssa had been hurt, because the night of White Glove, she had been smiling and winking at me, trying to hint at the fun surprise she had in store for me the next morning. Her definition of smiling had been the unnerving stare that had caused me to look away that night. She was hurt that I ignored her, but she carried through with the prank anyways. She did overhear several of my conversations, and she was also upset that I called her petty. I was exasperated at this point, but my dorm super assured me that she had basically threatened to take more severe action if Alyssa left any more notes. The notes did indeed stop, at least the paper notes. Not long after, Alyssa sent me a friend request on Facebook and all of my socials. She started following me whenever she could. Over Easter break, she sent me messages after messages in my private DMs. "Hey, hi, I know you're there. Why are you ignoring me? Hello?" Some messages came at 2 to 3 in the morning. I always ignored her messages or requests, but I never blocked her in case I needed evidence of harassment. I wanted to block her number, however I did not because I was still her RA and responsible for her safety and other duties. I told the college office about what was happening and they documented everything, but just encouraged me to show grace and to keep being kind. I became worried that as soon as I graduated in May, she would become fixated on someone else and begin stalking someone else. However, the college said there was nothing they could do unless I wanted to file an official harassment report. I decided in the end not to because I didn't feel like Alyssa was doing any actual harm. I didn't want her to get kicked out of college, and my reasoning for that is that if her anger was directed towards me, at least I can handle it, and she wasn't being weird towards someone else. Fast forward a bit and the stalking slowed down. Things were almost normal. She showed up at my graduation and asked for a photo together. I still don't know to this day why I consented. After I left the college, she would still occasionally send me messages that I would never read. I was always afraid that if she saw a read receipt, that she would spiral and get more angry, so I just never opened them. I guess I should have blocked her after I no longer had an obligation to her as an RA. But I felt safe several states away from her, and part of me wanted to see how long she would keep it up. She continued to one-sidedly message me for almost a year after graduation. I'm curious if she ever found someone else to stalk after I left the college, but I guess I'll never know. Sorry about the long read. This is probably not the ending you were expecting. Should I block Alyssa going forward, or just leave things alone since the messages have stopped? Anyways, thanks for listening.
Oh my. Oh, what a whirlwind. Okay, at the part there, she's like, things were almost normal. She showed up at my graduation, asked for a photo together. I still don't know why I consented. I know why you consented.
You were scared.
You were scared. Somebody stalking me and they showed up to my graduation, like, can I get a picture with you? I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, sure. Held hostage, doing it.